Hi, I'm Manachain Monaghan and I'm here today at the Monk Cocktail Bar in Buxton, which is usually in Derbyshire, but today we've relocated to Yorkshire because we're getting to play with the incredible Mason's Yorkshire Spirit range. Mason's are a small batch craft distillery based in Bedale, at the foot of Wensleydale, and in their tiny little 300 litre alembic copper pot still, they're making some really beautiful spirits. Right now we're looking at the Yorkshire Tea Gin. This is a classic Mason's gin, so it has all those lovely earthy saffron, fennel, candied lemon flavours, but they've distilled it with the tea as well. We're seeing a lot of tea products enter the market at the moment, and generally speaking they're all infusions, and that brings its own kind of problems. You get a lot of negative kind of tannins in there, polyphenol type flavours, too much bitterness, and generally those products are a little bit too weak to ever use them in a cocktail. But because they've distilled this, you get all those subtle nuances of the tea. You get all those lovely flavours when you've got a really, really good cup of tea in your hand. All the lovely little flavours that come out there. From distilling it, it's pulled out all those flavours. Which means that when we smell it, it does smell like that, exactly like a really good cup of tea, but backed up with those traditional Mason's notes of saffron, fennel, a little bit of citrus peel in there, lemongrass. And the palate's more of the same, but also with juniper coming through. So you're still very much aware that this is a gin. It doesn't move too far away from being a classic gin. You just have this other botanical in there, adding something really quite spectacular to it. So it's really exciting to try and use it for twists on gin and tonics and some really good classic cocktail variations as well. So for our Mason's Tea Gin, when we're using it in a gin and tonic, we don't want to take away from what's already there. We want to make the absolute most of the spirit that's here. So we're going to change the proportions from a classic gin and tonic a little bit. We're also not going to use any lime, because thanks to the tea in there, we have all these like earthy, lovely, rich caramel notes, and lime doesn't really sit that comfortably alongside those. So we're going to use a bit of lemon instead. But we start with 50 mils of the Mason's Yorkshire Tea Gin in a little glass teacup here. And we're only going to add a very small amount of tonic water to this. It just does not need that much. It's already such a well-balanced, such a well-rounded, really interesting, unique spirit that we don't want to lose it by adding too much tonic. So I'm adding about 35 mils of tonic water there. And then just a little lemon wheel, which is going to provide a little bit of freshness, a little bit of clarity. It's just going to help wake up the palate when you're sipping this. Yeah, that's really lovely. The effervescence of the tonic water really opens up and enlivens the more subtle notes in the tea there. And the lemon juice just cuts through it all, gives it a bit of acidity and a little bit of sweetness. But for a gin aficionado, it's a really nice serve. You can really taste all the gin, you can taste the tea, a little bit of tonic water just for balancing. Really, really lovely gin and tonic. So for our Mason's Tea Gin cocktail, I actually looked at a lot of classic cocktails that we could do a variation on. And because of the nature of this product with its unique balance of rich caramelly flavors and those little tannins in the end, I actually wanted to try remaking a classic whiskey cocktail, but with this gin base. And so we've taken some inspiration from the classic Manhattan and also the Mad Hatter's Tea Party to create the Mason's Mad Hatter. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to stir it down. I'm actually going to make a triple serve of this, and you'll see why. We're going to do the single serve, so if you're at home, you're making this for yourself, or you're making it for somebody in a bar, this is how you'll do it. And then we're going to do a group serving share as well. So we start with 50 mils of the awesome Mason's Tea Gin. But of course, for this triple serve, we're looking at 150 ml. To this, I'm going to add some Demerara sugar syrup, some amaretto, and some vermouth, and also some bitters. So we'll do the vermouth next. So this is a red vermouth, a sweet vermouth. And we're doing 20 ml, so it's going to be 60 ml for the 3 serves. To this we add the bitters. So this is, at this point, a classic Manhattan recipe. We're doing 6 dashes of the bitters. And that's for the 3 serves, so 2 dashes each. And then we need a little bit of sweetness. And because we want this to really flesh out the tea flavors and really expose the tea flavors in the Mason's gin, I'm going to add a little bit of demerara sugar syrup. So 50 ml per serve, so it comes to 45 ml for all 3. And then also some amaretto. And we're just doing 10 ml of the amaretto. It's got those lovely apricot kernel notes, it almost tastes like cherry and almond. But when you combine it with the tea, it really just fleshes out all those tea flavors and makes it a really full tea flavor. And it's only 10 ml per serve, so 30 ml altogether. I give this a quick stir down. Doesn't need to be super cold, this. Works really well as it is already, just really nicely balanced. So we have now all these elements, the spices in the vermouth, the demerara sugar syrup, and the amaretto, providing some new spicy, nutty notes, but it's all backed up by the tea. The tea sits there underneath everything else, and it comes through in the finish just absolutely beautifully. So you'll be tasting this cocktail long after you've first sipped it, but there's tannins from the tea coming through. So we do the single serve here. And in a moment, I'll garnish this with just a little bit of orange zest, paying homage to that classic Manhattan recipe. And the rest is going to go into my shared serve here. So for the single serve, then just take a little strip of orange zest, spritz it over your glass, and this is just going to freshen everything up a little bit. Run it around the rim. You don't want to overdo that, just a real gentle run down around the rim. Squeeze it over, leave it so you can actually smell the zest. And it really is very, very close to that classic Manhattan, even though we're not using an aged spirit. It's really quite extraordinary. I absolutely love this spirit for that. For the shared serve, this is great if you've got friends around, got a big group coming, just grab a big mixing bowl, scale this up, make as many serves as you need. But obviously, we don't all have the same palate. Some people like things sweet, some people like things bitter, some people like things really, really smooth. So what I suggest is get it in your teapot, put your teapot over a little bit of ice, get your glasses out, so it's ready to serve, and then serve it with a little bit of sugar syrup. This is a demerara sugar syrup, and it's so easy to make. Just get any sort of bowl, mixing bowl, anything, even just a teacup, fill it with sugar, boil your kettle, pour that over it just when it's hit the boil and stir it until it's all dissolved. That's all you need to do, and then it's ready to go. A little bit of milk and a bottle of Angostura bitters. So then when you pour it out, your friends and yourself, you can try it. Put it in your best little kitsch vintage glasses. And it's almost like Goldilocks and the Three Bears here. I like my cocktails really, really better. So I'll try that, and I'll just add a little dash of Angostura bitters to it. It's just going to bring out those spicy notes. But it might be that you're actually not much of a drinker, you don't like the booze, you like it to be a nice, soft drinking experience. This is where we can add a little bit of milk. And you'll see it goes from that nice brown cup of tea to a milky cup of tea very, very quickly. And that's just going to smooth out all those tannins. It's going to make it a really light, fresh drinking experience. Much, much creamier. Yeah, but you still get that presence of the tea gin coming through. Really, really lovely. So there's 2 serves for you for the Mason's Manhattan.